I want to go over every section of them because that would take up a lot of time. Suffice to say, there's a section in our endorsement procedures that requires that any candidate seeking our endorsement must be a Democrat. And we sort of adopted this, we sort of rolled this provision into our endorsement procedures a couple of years ago. We didn't used to have it. It sort of mirrors what the county has. The problem with having such provision, of course, is that if there's a candidate that we want to endorse in a race where there is no Democrat, we can't because our rules preclude it. So there is such a candidate this year in such a city council race in Kirkland. There is a city councilor named Bob Cernoff who we would like to see replaced, many of us, who, especially those who live in Kirkland. And Dave Asher has talked to me for a long time about this over and over, hoping to find someone to run. Our party did not recruit a candidate to run against Bob Cernoff. As a result, there is no Democrat in the race against Bob. There is, however, an independent candidate in the race. His name is Jason Gardner. He is an Oracle technician. He is a Navy veteran, and he has worked with the Sierra Club. And we asked him if he would like to seek our endorsement, and he said he would. He submitted a questionnaire to us. And even though he's an independent, he really is in line with our values. He largely supports the King County Democratic Platform. He supports the Davis-Beacon Act, supports equal rights for women, supports changes to the way we live to help deal with the climate crisis, supports affirmative action, supports the right of workers to bargain and strike, on and on. So there really isn't any red flags for us that concern us on the issues. The question is whether we want to take action in a race where the candidate running is not a Democrat. I thought about this and I thought, it makes sense for us to be able to have at least the option to do that if we so choose. And so I have written a change to our endorsement procedures. I'll keep one copy up here. And I will distribute these. This is a very simple change. Thanks, Mark. And I will go over the changes so that it's clear what they are. The current section reads, a candidate must file as a Democrat or at least publicly announce his or her intention to do so. Candidates seeking endorsement for nonpartisan office must publicly declare themselves to be Democrats, except those seeking election or appointment to a judicial office. The new proposed Section 2 reads, to be eligible for an endorsement, a candidate must file as a Democrat or publicly announce his or her intention to do so unless the candidate is seeking a nonpartisan or judicial office. And then you see we have the text of new Section 3. New Section 3 reads, in nonpartisan races for executive or legislative office, a motion to endorse an independent candidate shall only be in order if all of the following conditions are met. And I'll explain the conditions so it's clear what our thinking is here. First, the filing period or winnowing election has ended. In other words, it is not possible under this rule change for an independent to come to us early in a cycle and request an endorsement. They can't. We won't consider it. Criteria 2, there is no Democrat in the race. This means that our choice, basically, in terms of the electorate, our choice in the election is between a Republican and independent. There is no Democrat that we can choose from. They're not on the ballot. And there's no way for a Democrat to get on the ballot because the filing period is passed. And the third criteria, the candidate requesting an endorsement from the 45th has completed the relevant King County Democratic questionnaire to the satisfaction of the endorsements committee and or been interviewed by the endorsements committee. So basically, what these conditions require is that a candidate who is not a Democrat has to go through a fairly rigorous evaluation. They can't just write up on a piece of paper, I want the endorsement of the 45th. They actually have to do the questionnaire or be interviewed by the endorsements committee, and they cannot be moved. Their endorsement cannot be moved from the floor. It has to go through the endorsements committee. As you know, our rules do permit endorsement motions from the floor, but the candidate, of course, has to have requested our endorsement. But even if we don't recommend them, motions can still be made from the floor. In this case, they couldn't be, because this would preclude it. Go ahead, Ken.
Is there any state party rules that preclude us from doing this?
No. The county, we used to actually have the flexibility to do this until we sort of rolled the county's tradition into our own rules. We actually endorsed 4 years ago in the Redmond-Merrill race, we endorsed an independent for Redmond-Merrill. We endorsed Jim Robinson. And so we acted then because we wanted to endorse, there was one Democrat in the race, Holly Plackett. Holly was eliminated in the winnowing election, and we wanted to endorse a candidate. So the endorsements committee ended up recommending, and this body endorsed Jim Robinson, who is an independent. And so we now are at a point where we have a person who would like our support. He is not a Democrat, but he might become a Democrat working with us. It's possible. We're always open to new recruits, right? So it would be good for us to establish a working relationship with him. If we help him get elected to Kirkland City Council, that's good for us because then he has a rapport with us. And it's better for us, I think, not to ignore the race, and we have an interest in the race, and it could help improve Kirkland. I mean, we know that Bob Sternoff has had some personal and legal and ethical problems, and Bob is actually, in this race, Bob is running behind Jason Gardner. Jason Gardner is not just a candidate who has demonstrated some viability to us in terms of talking to us. He actually received more votes in the winning election than Bob Sternoff. So this is somebody who is already leading his incumbent opponent. And I think that, to us, signals that he can win this race and that our help would be beneficial to him. I would like to be able to see us going out there, those of us that are in Kirkland, letting people in Kirkland know that we have a candidate that we support who would be a better fit for the council. So that's our rationale. And the endorsements committee has met and looked over this new language and recommends it to you. It is basically a very simple change to the rules. The rules, by the way, for anyone who might want to know, the rules on changing the endorsement rules are twofold. One, do we endorse? Make sense? Any other questions? Laura?
A long, long time ago, in a land far away, no, a long, long time ago in this body, there was, I believe, a 10-day, people had to have a chance to look at a rule change and think about it. So you had to put it out there, there had to be 10 days notice of the rule change before it could be voted on. Has that, because this seems like, I mean, is that not still in effect? It seems like it's putting people on the spot.
I will stress that this isn't part of our bylaws. The bylaws are a completely separate document. The endorsement procedures are a 3-page document that is not in the bylaws. We are not changing the bylaws. The endorsement procedures are a document that governs how we deal with endorsements, but they can be changed at any general meeting by majority vote. Okay, the idea is to let democracy rule, and the rules don't say that there has to be advance notice. The reason for that is in the event of emergency, advance notice sort of, destroys the ability to act in an emergency.
Well,
so
generally it's able to be, those kinds of things are able to be waived if enough of the body agrees. But Correct. What it means is that, I mean, even in democracy, the candidates don't announce and then we have an election 5 seconds later. Democracy can still rule if you have a few minutes to, a few days to think about something. I'm not objecting to it at all. I'm just, I'm just asking the question.
Understood, and actually that's why we require, the rules were written with the idea that amendments could only be submitted in writing, so that someone couldn't just stand up and say, I think we should change X. There has to actually be a written circulated copy, otherwise it's not something that can be considered. So that's the idea, I think, in mind of safeguarding the rules from being corrupted in a way that would cause harm to the body and to its procedures. So if there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to adopt the rules.
I have a question.
Yes, Ralph.
I guess I have to direct myself to the chair, and that is, would a motion to suspend the endorsement rules allow us to consider the question that Andrew really wants to put before us, the endorsement, and delay actual consideration of these rules? I think these rules this proposed change is actually well crafted, and if it comes to a vote, I will favor it. But I think that in the spirit of what Laura suggests, that people have a chance to think about this, and also recognizing the urgency of this, I would propose that we suspend the rules if that requires 2/3 majority. So the question that Andrew is anxious for us to consider be considered, then we can take a subsequent meeting about whether we want to amend the rules.
Yes, I would be inclined to think that a motion to suspend the portion of the rules that require that we that endorsed candidates declare themselves as Democrats would be something that would also be in order.
That's my interpretation as well, just based on parliamentary knowledge, is that you can suspend the rules and it cancels out the rules, so that would have the same effect.
So,
For tonight, yes.
right. So I would propose that we suspend the endorsement rules so that the proposed endorsement can be considered.
So you are moving to suspend section 2 of Article 3 of the endorsement rules.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we suspend section 2 of Article 3 of the endorsement rules, which states that a candidate must file as a Democrat, or at least publicly announce his or her intention to do so. Martin, this motion is not debatable, correct? I don't think it's debatable. Not debatable. So with that in mind, this motion will require a 2/3 vote. All in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. All opposed? There are 3 opposed. Motion carries. The rules have been suspended, as at least section 2. That allows us to consider an endorsement of Jason Gardner for Kirkland City Council. I will just say a couple more things about him and then answer any questions that people have them. Jason's questionnaire indicates that he is new to politics, but that he really is anxious to represent people in Kirkland. He says he has knocked on approximately 2,000 doors so far. He's going to send out a postcard to new voters. He is largely self-funded, and he is running a grassroots volunteer-driven campaign. He notes that his opponent has been known for bending or breaking the laws. So far in this election, he has made multiple PDC violations, broken his pledge. As stated above, he is also known for not listening to and not respecting the residents of Kirkland. I'm reading from his questionnaire answer. So, and he believes the biggest issue facing Kirkland is the newly annexed areas, which I'm sure Council Members Greenway and Asher would agree is a huge issue for Kirkland, is trying to incorporate those new neighborhoods into the city and not allow the previous neighborhoods that were part of the city to be disrupted in any way in terms of the quality of the services. So it looks like a fairly clear choice for the endorsements committee, and that's why we are recommending Jason Gardner. With that, I would entertain a motion to endorse Jason.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we endorse Jason Gardner for Kirkland City Council, position 2. Is there any discussion? Yeah, Catherine.
Has Jason received any significant endorsements?
We would be one of his first. He is not received any significant support. I don't think Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the Municipal League rated candidates in Kirkland?
Did not.
They did not. So the Municipal League hasn't rated Jason didn't give us a long list of endorsements, but he has worked with the Sierra Club, at least I think when he was in California, so I don't know if they've endorsed him or not. Yes, Michael.
I just to clarify, I did check, some of it, you only right at this present time, now I can only find like 4, online supporters of his, and they're all, the people that I saw were all progressive type of people that were involved in the Sierra Club or domestic violence or something. They were all involved in the activities or like that, so, I don't wanna poo-poo the fact that he doesn't have very many, endorsements. The people that are endorsing him, the personal people that are endorsing him, are involved in the same things that we are involved in.
Right, when you're new, it's hard to get a lot of endorsements. Thank you for that point of information. Yes, Eric.
If he shares our values, did he indicate why he's not a Democrat?
No, the question is very simple. Are you a Democrat? Are you an independent? I'm not known to be a Democrat. But I think if he worked with the party, he might wish to become a Democrat. That's one of the reasons why I think it's good to connect with people like Jason, because it can show them what the Democratic Party has to offer. Yes, Joe.
I'm unclear, how long has he been in Kirkland?
So let me read from his bio. He currently works for Oracle. He has worked in the computer industry for over 12 years. He's a Navy veteran, honorably discharged after 6 years of service, where he earned the rank of Petty Officer 2nd Class. Looks like he's lived in Kirkland for just a few years. So,
A few years.
correct.
How well does he know Kirkland is my real question.
Well, the candidate himself could best answer that, but I think he knows his neighbors pretty well, and like any political newcomer, he's going to be learning on the job. I mean, that's just something that a newcomer has to do in order to be successful. Ken.
Anyone in the room aware of him seeking any other endorsement? It
question for the body.
The only thing, as far as I know, when I looked at, because it is extremely difficult for the endorsement committee or for anybody to gather pertinent information on a newcomer. He has a link on his webpage, but that's it. So I don't know, I could not find personally where he reached out to anybody else.
Seems like at one of the committee forums, he said that he wasn't seeking endorsements, that he wanted to be independent.
Well, we did reach out to him, and that's part of that's part of why this request is before us, is because we invited him to make requests. And our chair has directed the endorsements committee to try and reach out to candidates as much as possible and invite them to seek our support so that we actually have endorsements to consider. Yes, Joe.
I realize that you have your own system with the endorsements committee procedure, but I would be more comfortable if he were personally invited to come to a meeting and talk to us and answer our questions before we vote to endorse or not.
Well, the problem, of course, with that is that this is our October meeting. The precincts need to be walked over the next few weeks, and meeting, while it will be before the election, it will not come in a timely fashion. It will only be like less than a week before, so it wouldn't really do us much good to endorse them in November. Go ahead, Priscilla.
I would add on to that, this is our last opportunity, if we want to endorse them, to have it on the endorsement flyer, because those have got to get printed for the walks.
Right. So while I agree it's always beneficial to have candidates here, what we did insist on is getting the questionnaire, otherwise we wouldn't have brought this matter before the body, and we're comfortable enough recommending the endorsement. There wasn't any controversy in the endorsements committee about this. Laura, go ahead.
So we know that Bob Sternoff is an idiot, personally.
Speak for yourself, please.
Well, he did something stupid. Let's say. We know that he did something stupid. Do we know that he does not share our values?
Yes, it's pretty well.
Bob Sternoff does support a full and complete audit of the Federal Reserve, and we're endorsing this man here who won't support a full and complete audit of the Federal Reserve. And the 45th District's passed a resolution. So.
And if we reached out to Jason.
That's very nice of Bob to support that.
Did we reach out to Bob? I mean, I think it's one thing if somebody proactively comes to us and asks for our endorsement. I don't know that we need to reach out to their opponent. But if we reached out to Jason, did we reach out? I just don't want to see us get caught with our pants down.
Right.
I don't want to see the district get caught with our pants down because we don't like what Bob did. That's my only concern here.
We did not reach out to Bob. I don't think Bob would have been at all interested in getting an endorsement from us.
But that would answer. That would answer. I mean, do we know if Bob is pro-choice?
I
that was
don't,
one of the
I
things
don't have that answer.
Ken, do you know? I don't know if Jessica, do you know?
It's really not up to Jessica to answer that question for Bob.
Well, Jessica's an honest.
And I can't comment.
Speak for yourself.
I'm on the pack.
All right. Any other?
Are we ready to vote
on the motion? Look, it sounds like we're ready to vote. If there's no other discussion, Richard, go ahead.
So I'm going to vote against this, just like I voted for the last thing, like I voted for others. And I know Martin said the rules allow to do this, but I just object so strenuously to coming to this meeting not knowing that there's going to be an endorsement, because I had an experience in the 45th, probably 35 years ago, where the group came in, decided to endorse somebody, brought in all of anyway, they stacked the audience. And I just think that risk is not worth taking in this case, and that's why I'm voting no on this one and whoever else you got lined up. I just think it's unfair to sort of sneak somebody in. I know that's not your intention, Andrew, but there's, I don't know how many members we have, but certainly a lot more than there are here. So that's why I'm voting no.
Thank you. That's a speech against. Is there a speech in favor? Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of the endorsement committee. We're not sneaking anybody in here. I mean,
this is pretty sneaky.
This process, you all know this is the wrong process on this, and that we're constantly, I mean, one of the things that this organization needs to do is to reach out to Democrats, and on these local levels, you're reaching out to new people that you're trying to get. And they're trying to balance where they're at, because a lot of now that we have all these nonpartisan races, these people don't know. they're trying to
Would
figure
it
out
have
what
hurt
they're
the
trying to do.
organization to send out an email
Hold on, Michael's
yesterday?
speaking, he's giving his speech and he shouldn't be interrupted. No one interrupted you while you were speaking. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, and so the endorsement committee, we act as soon as we get any information that we're doing. I mean, it's not, I know some of the people think that I'm hearing is that they're thinking that that these are being shoved down their throats and stuff, and that is never our intent. I mean, we meet as a group, I mean, and we discuss this, and if it's not a clear thing, you know, we won't even bring it up. But we are attempting to reach out to candidates and stuff, and sometimes, you know, it's just not clear. You know, you're talking, you got the winnowing election done, and then you're starting to, all these candidates, and we're trying to figure out if they're viable or not viable, if they want our support, if they don't want our support, and especially the new people. They don't know what they want our support, they don't know what we can do. So, you know, I just want to say there's no pressure, you know, from the endorsement committee to hurry up and do these things.
Like, could Andrew one sentence?
I'll treat that as a speech for, Richard, you've spoken, so unless you have a point of order or a
Well,
point
it's
of
not a point of
clarification.
order, but does it hurt to send out an email 24 hours ago that you're gonna do this? That's my only message.
Okay, thank you for your point of clarification. Laura, go ahead.
So, Michael, I actually think you made Richard's point. Because, again, long time ago, it required I believe that the rule was, and Ralph, you may remember this, but that you needed 10 days' notice if an endorsement was going to be considered at a meeting. And that 10 days, because you said reaching out to new people, unless the kid is 18, I think most of us knew by the time we were Jason Gardner's age whether we were Democrats or Republicans. But I did. I knew before I could vote. But you are making Richard's point. Because if an email had gone out 10 days ago that had said, be advised, we are considering Jason Gardner's endorsement at this meeting, then you know what? I could have gone out to people that I may know who know Jason and figured out really what he was. I could maybe have gotten my question answered. I could have called Bob Sternoff and said, we're considering an endorsement. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? Your speech makes the point makes Richard's point, which is that advance notice that an endorsement would be considered was always the rule, unless 2/3 of the body waived it for a particular reason.
All right, I'll treat that.
That's kind of a point of the rules. Is that true?
I would treat that as a speech against Martin Wood Street.
Okay, so I think that's a speech against. I would like to point out that we have been publicizing since before the filing deadline that that endorsements would be in order at this meeting tonight. So people have actually had like 6 months' notice that this is an endorsement meeting. It's in red on every calendar.
Who? But who names? Which?
No, we do not have specific names on that.
Okay.
Okay, and our endorsement rules do not have a 10-day requirement announcement. We do not have any rules that require specific notification of these specific races and candidates. I mean, that would be something that we could consider putting in, but it's not our operating
that answers my
procedure.
question.
It has not been the operating procedure as long as I've been a member of this body. So, you know.
Sheila, do you want to speak?
Well, having sat in and being a member of the endorsement committee, what I heard was that the endorsement committee was not very happy with Sternoff, so therefore an alternative candidate that looks decent and seems to support our values is important to support. And I don't know if you want to go. I don't live in Kirkland, so I don't know any of the politics, and I don't know whether that information needs to be shared. But I figured that was the primary reason for looking for an alternative.
I'll treat that as a speech for. Finally, I'll just say in response to the debate, just to clarify how the district works on endorsements. I take considering endorsements very seriously, and one of the things that our endorsement committee tries to do is lift the law of the work out of the general meeting so that we don't stand here or sit here for 2 hours arguing over things that can be investigated on our own time. And while I agree that it is very important for us to try and be able to provide as much information as possible, the endorsements committee doesn't make a secret of what it does. We were very clear in e-board saying this is what we're working on, this is what to, and we have been trending towards releasing, when we can, endorsement recommendations in written form in advance of the meetings. We did that with Richard Mitchell and John Creighton back in May, and we are going to do more of that, I think, in the future. The problem is getting all that organized. When you're dealing with candidates who may not be familiar with the process, I mean, Laura, you've been obviously involved in it for a very long time. You know how everything works. Jason Gardner is a newcomer, and we had to talk to him repeatedly and explain what we were asking of him and explain what our process is. And when you're giving all this information to people, it is a lot for them to process at once because they're not familiar with how to seek endorsements. So we've done our best, and I do apologize for those who are upset that we didn't provide like 10 days notice or 14 days notice or whatever it is, whatever amount you prefer. But I do want to assure you that we are not skimping on our duties in terms of doing the investigation. And in future endorsement meetings, we will incorporate the feedback that people would like more advance notice of who we're recommending. We will try to do that to the best of our ability. So with that said, I think that pretty much concludes the debate. This endorsement motion to be adopted will require a 2/3 vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Those opposed? There are 4 opposed. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Gardner is endorsed. There is one